and we'll get started here in just a minute. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming. It's 1 o'clock. My name is Franco Vitella. I'm a board member at large with the Graphic Novels and Comics Roundtable. I'll be your host for today, along with our great moderator and panelists. I just have an introduction to read, and then we'll get going into the discussion. I'm going to share my screen real quickly for a slide, and then we'll get going. Oh, no, not what I wanted to hit. There we go. All right. So hello, everyone, and welcome to our Banned Books Week webinar series featuring comics creators and librarians in conversation on topics centered around censorship and intellectual freedom. These webinars are offered in partnership with ALA Graphic Novels and Comics Roundtable, ALA Intellectual Freedom Roundtable, and with our friends at Image Comics. In addition to these webinars, you can participate in Banned Books Week through Escape the Dead End of Censorship, a virtual escape room where you can demonstrate your knowledge of intellectual freedom. You can access the escape room at tinyurl.com/ifrt-bbw2020. That's 2020. That's the link you should see at the top of your screen right now. You can also let the world know that you love comics and support the freedom to read them with GNCRT and IFRT tech tattoos that can be affixed to your laptop, tablet, or phone to proudly display your support for the work of our roundtables. Tech tattoos can be purchased on the Freedom to Read Foundation store at ftrf.org/store. And you can see those tech tattoos and the link there. I will say that those tattoos are actually currently on my computer. So they're very cool. Go over there and check them out. If you have any questions for today's panelists, please put them in the Q&A. We'll be monitoring questions throughout the webinar, but we'll have some time set aside at the end of our session specifically for Q&A from attendees. Today's webinar is Banned Through Comics Metadata, featuring librarians on how the metadata of comics can limit and grant access to comics, from proper crediting of creators to the details of a catalog record. With us today, we have Allison Bailund. She's a recent graduate from the University of Washington Information School, interested in critical cataloging. She's currently the co-chair of the ALA Graphic Novels and Comics Roundtable Metadata and Cataloging Project. We also have Hallie Clawson, who's a recent graduate from the University of Washington Information School, interested in EDI and library spaces, community colleges, comics, and cataloging. We also have Rotem Anna Diamant, who is an artist and librarian interested in comics, community spaces, and DIY culture. They like to tell stories through zines, illustrations, and comics. And moderating today is Brittany Netherton, who is a reference librarian interested in comics and graphic medicine. You won't find her altering any metadata herself, but she's interested in the work of others, or the work others are doing to make comics more accessible. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen and turn it over to you, Brittany, and our panelists.
All right, thanks, Franco. So hi, everyone, welcome. I am so happy today to be speaking with these three incredible people who are going to tell us all about comics metadata. And I have about 9 questions for everyone, and then at the end, we'll open it up to audience questions. So we'll just start rolling now. My first question to the panelists is, what makes comics so unique when it comes to cataloging and shelving? Anyone want to start?
I guess I can start. So first, I just want to preface everything with I'm not a professional cataloger, but I can definitely speak to the experience of creating our community comics library. We're a small volunteer-run library. So to answer your question, I guess something that I feel makes them very unique is that visually they can be like works of art on the shelves, especially when the covers are facing out. We tried to do that as much as possible, but running out of room, unfortunately, to keep doing that as much as we were. And I think that looking at them, you can see it's a reflection of the vast scope of experiences and narratives told through comics, and they can be about anything, which is also something that makes them very unique. And they can be in different formats like zines and floppies and hardcover and paperback and scrolls even. And that, I guess we'll be talking about this more later, but that makes it hugely challenging to shelve and display them. And then, yeah, so I guess I'll leave it at that for now.
I feel like I should point out, so Allison and I went to the University of Washington High School together, and in our last year did a research project on cataloging comics specifically, where we did 2 surveys. So for context, most of the information that I will probably speak to is going to be from our survey and from the later writing that we've done with that data. And from a library perspective, I would say the biggest thing I found with comics is that they are really more of a format than they are a genre. A lot of the time in libraries, they are perceived of as a genre, but because of the physical presentation issues that Rotem was just talking about, they do become a lot more difficult to shelve in some cases. You come down to issues of, from a library perspective, do you only have trade editions on your shelves? Do you try to have the single issue, magazine style ones? Do you try to have scrolls? I mean, that is awesome, but how do you put that on a shelf? Yeah. So the biggest thing I would say is the format, as well as the fact that comics so much of the time are created by a team of people as opposed to by a single author. So from a cataloging perspective, you want to make sure that you are crediting everybody who was involved in the creation of this piece of art, where most libraries will just say, oh, well, it's by this author, so that's all you need to know. So those are the 2 biggest things that I would say come up again and again with comics in libraries is, how do you credit everyone and how do you get it on the shelf?
Allison,
yeah, and adding to what they said, another big challenge with comics especially is all the title changes, all the creator changes, all the reboots, the renumbering. Mm-hmm. I've had plenty of times where I catalog something and all of a sudden now I have trade volume 0, and trade volume 0 comes out after number 10. And so, we usually put years in our call numbers, and that confuses patrons. Like, why is 0 later than 10? Is it come before it chronologically? And then another issue with comics as well is just, especially with superhero comics, is who are you talking about? Like, if you have a Batman comic and you have Robin, which Robin do you have? Do you have Dick Grayson? Do you have Jason Todd? Do you have Damian Wayne? Do you have Stephanie Brown? Do you have Tim Drake? Or is it part of the Elseworlds? So a lot of those issues come up, and it makes it very challenging because there is some metadata that you can put in to for fictitious characters and stuff, but it's not complete, and it's not always the easiest to search.
I have to say that set us up very nicely for some of the questions that we are going to get to. So if anybody that's tuning in is wondering or wanting to speak more on something, I assure you that we're going to get to all of those things. The next question, which we touched on a little bit, but let's talk a little bit more about it, are some of the major issues catalogers face when adding comics to a library collection.
I can start. There's a lot of issues and challenges, particularly with comics, and I think most of them stem from librarians desperately trying to create accessible catalog records and include diverse selection and indie and even some self-published works, but working with like extreme limitations of systems that weren't designed to accommodate or reflect the way that many people see comics now and how comics exist now. And that leads to challenges in physical cataloging, being able to purchase comics and physically displaying and preserving comics with very limited library budgets. And we might go more in depth into Library of Congress and Dewey, I'm guessing, but I believe that the way, and a big issue also comes from the way with the oversaturation in the mainstream comics market of comics made by cis white men, coupled with like lack of representation, like visual cues to be able to see marginalized creators and to be able to visually see when you're standing in front of the shelves the scope of comics, that the issues sort of arise from that. And any like very, very different comics could be side by side, which could lead to like interesting discoverability experiences and people maybe stumbling into narratives that they might have not traditionally even looked at. But that also leads to people not being able to see themselves represented or being able to find certain narratives that interest them. So yeah, so I'll leave it there for now.
I think you touched on a really important point, though, that one of the biggest things, I think, is resource limitations as far as comics can be hard to catalog, especially if you're not personally very familiar with them. If you're coming in as a cataloger who doesn't read comics and doesn't know who Frank Miller is, and then you're, cataloging this thing, it can take a lot of time. It can take a lot of research to figure out where does this particular trade issue fall in the run of some very long manga or something like that. And sometimes because libraries have limited budgets, it's like, well, you have to do so many comics a day. You have to get through so many records, and comics can be difficult in that way, or they can end up just delegated to, oh, well, we'll just fob them all off on Allison because Allison likes comics. And you end up with catalogers making personal decisions as far as like, well, how much time can I spend on this? And that can then limit how findable it is. And you might end up falling back on, oh, well, I've heard of Neil Gaiman, so I'm just going to do the Neil Gaiman comics, but I'm not going to do these self-published, cool indie things because they're going to take too much work. So I think getting buy-in from your administrators and getting buy-in from the library on a broader level is really vital, just because otherwise you're not going to have the time.
And to add to what Hallie said, because I do catalog mostly comics and DVDs, both of which take quite a bit of time, it can be very, very challenging, especially when you have a large monographic set like DC Archive editions, where you have 10, 15 volumes. So you have 50, 60 potential creators within that. And if you're going to add all of those creator names, that takes a lot of time. If you're going to add the table of contents, which I pretty much always do, that takes a lot of time to type up. And I always also try to include what every issue is collecting if I'm doing trades. And sometimes that's not easy to find. Sometimes it's not listed anywhere in the comic itself. So you have to look at outside sources and then include where you're getting the credits in your catalog record. But I mean, from a practical standpoint, as a cataloger, one of the biggest challenges is just figuring out how you want to catalog comics in general. Like, are you going to catalog every trade by itself, even if it's just like Saga Volume 1, Saga Volume 2? Are you going to do a set record for those? Do you do set records if it's just like a common title, and then Volume 1, Volume 2, and then for titles that have like a part title, do you do separate records for those? So it's just, there's a lot of different decisions that have to be made, and it's really important for catalogers and just librarians in general to try to be consistent in their cataloging and how they describe their items. And that is one of the things we got a lot of feedback on, is from our surveys, is users were very confused. They go to one branch and stuff was cataloged one way, and then in another branch it would be completely different. And so, and sometimes even within the same branch, I know my library, we're not completely consistent, because as new rules have come out, as things have changed, I've changed how I catalog, but I haven't had time to retroactively go back and fix old records. So.
Yeah, that's a big issue across libraries. Everybody's doing it their own way and solving the problems however makes sense to them. But there's no overarching guide.
Yeah. And in our library, we're a very small library, and because we're private and we use open source software that we sort of alter, and we have our own classification taxonomy, but it's also very flawed and reflects our biases. And as a cataloger, we have a lot of challenges. I try and train, and we train volunteers to catalog, but it's very difficult because to maintain consistency, and also because comics are such a hybrid medium for storytelling. When we catalog, there are also issues of, let's say there's a journalism comic that could go in nonfiction, but it's also told in first person, like the work of Joe Sacco, and it often very self-consciously creators insert themselves in the narrative. So do we put that in nonfiction, or is it more autobiography? So we sort of have to weigh which subject or genre is more of, and decide where someone would most likely be looking for that narrative. Also with historical fiction, which is a section we have, and everyday fiction, which is every day in the time up, which we have to weigh whether the research in the book and the events in the book are such a heavy character in the book that we should place it in historical fiction over everyday fiction. So all that is to say that they're a very complicated medium for so many reasons, and it's difficult because as a cataloger, I imagine in public and other libraries too, you have to be self-conscious of like your bias, but also how much time and energy you can put into a record, because it's a lot of work. And yeah, so I'll leave it there for questions.
So it sounds like a lot of these decisions are very heavily influenced by the type of institution, the amount of time that somebody has to put into it, and any number of other factors just on a day-to-day basis that people have to consider. Are there any best practices when it comes to cataloging comics, or is so much of it kind of situation specific that they don't quite exist?
Allison, you're making one, right?
Yeah, so the metadata committee with the GNCRT is currently drafting our best practices document. It is very cataloger specific, and we're calling it like a set of guidelines or recommendations, because everything is going to be situational. It's going to depend on what type of library you are, what your users and patrons need, and how much staff time you have to dedicate to it. One thing that I did want to talk about and say, and this is a very cataloger specific thing, I'm sorry, is there's a subject heading manual 8/1790, which is what we recommend people follow, and it provides guidance, and I'm going to quote because I grabbed the quote, so because I do not have these things memorized. Provides guidance on assigning subject headings to fictional works, both collections and individual titles. So in 2001, special provisions for increased subject access to fiction were added to H 1790. These provisions allow catalogers to add subject headings for classes of persons, like your superheroes or detectives, individual characters, and topics. And so there's been a big push lately to increase like the subject headings for superheroes. So African American superheroes is a subject heading, Asian American superheroes, Muslim superheroes, Jewish superheroes. And so like as all these headings come out, if you have a comic that features, for example, Miles Morales, you can include headings that will bring out the fact that he is not white, he is not Peter Parker. And so it's something that I think a lot of libraries and librarians aren't really aware of. And thank you, Violet, for sharing the link. So it's just something that, you know, has been going on. And, you know, we're trying, a lot of catalogers are trying to, you know, propose more headings to make it easier for people to describe what their patrons want. But it's a slow process, it's slow going. But that is something I wanted to bring up.
I'm glad you did. Thank you for sharing that with us.
I can also share a shameless plug if that's okay.
Go for it.
So this came out at the beginning of this year, the Library's Guide to Graphic Novels, which is an elect monograph that Allison and I and our other research partner, Stacy, wrote the cataloging chapter in that. But it also has a ton of great information about the history of comics, about nonfiction comics, about international manga, graphic medicine, all kinds of really cool stuff. So it's a good book. It's expensive because it's elect, but you know, get it for your library.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Matthew is also shamelessly recommending it.
Yes, it's his chapter on graphic medicine is awesome.
Ro, did you have something?
That was great. I guess I can add, I guess, only speak to our library's procedures, which are not reproducible in larger branches, but as was mentioned, crediting the creators is really important when possible, using inclusive language, trying not to treat comics as an all-encompassing genre. And there are many updates that I'm sure a lot of people watching know that have improved how comics have been cataloged in systems like the RDA updates and getting rid of abbreviations and Latin and crediting more creators now than before. It's also really important, I think, that people see themselves reflected through searching in a library catalog. So something that we're able to do is create community-driven keywords, which we are in the process of taming and creating a taxonomy and a detailed guide for volunteers. But so that when people search using language that they're familiar with, they'll be able to find things from that. And I think it's really important in terms of in the library space, creating displays which help kind of show off the scope of comics, like subject displays. And I know we'll be talking a little bit more about stickering the spines later, so I won't get into that possibility. And for librarians who work in smaller special collections, it might be possible, or smaller library branches, it might be possible to create your own tailored call number system and subject breakdown for comics, like zine libraries do, and other special collections or other libraries like the Weiwa Library at UBC, which uses a variant of the Brian Deere classification to represent Indigenous knowledge systems. And yes.
Wonderful. Thank you all. So again, we've talked a little bit about this, but in case there's anything else to be said, the next question is, how do we ensure that comics are as accessible as possible through catalog records? And I suspect that the next question might kind of go along with that, which Ro just talked a little bit about, which is how far should we go when it comes to listing creators and contributors in comics? Should it stop at writers, artists? Should we include inkers, colorists, editors, anybody else? What are your thoughts?
As much as possible, with as much time as you have. Especially, and I think Allison and I, to some extent, can speak to it from an academic library background, but like, you will have people who are looking for inkers. You will have people who are looking for specific artists or specific kinds of creators. You know, I'm looking specifically for letterers who were Jewish Americans and also did work in Hebrew. Like, you will have people looking for very specific things, and the more information you can provide in the time that is available to you, the better.
To answer the first part, I also want to plug some alternate vocabularies. Like, you don't have to be tied, well, depending upon where you work, you don't have to be tied to Library of Congress subject headings. There's the Homosaurus, there's Eric, there's Getty. So there's other vocabularies that you can explore and use. And in terms of the second part of the question, I generally speaking try to include everyone. I think my most that I've done so far is 60 people, which took a very, very long time. But we also have, San Diego State has a very big bluegrass collection. Don't ask me why. No, we have a donor. But, and a lot of those CDs and DVDs, I mean, it's so many different bands, it's so many different artists. And if you're gonna include like a DVD, for example, you're gonna include all the actors, you're gonna include all the producers, you're gonna include the directors, the costume designer, you know, cinematographer. Why won't you do the same for comics? Like, if you're gonna include all that information in DVDs, why don't you do the same for your comic books? And I attended 2 talks recently, and I wanted to call out one of them. Adrian Resha, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, presented on brown people with bad resumes, Arab and Latinx ethno-racial identities in Green Lantern, which is part of the SoulCon just a couple weeks ago. And they showed how the color for different characters for Simon Boz and Jessica Cruz changed depending upon who is doing the coloring. And so that's one reason, that's one, like, researchers are actually looking at what color is Storm in various comics through various years of X-Men. And so it's really important to include the colorist, because you will have, if you're in an academic library, you will probably have somebody who's really interested in how Storm, for example, has changed colors throughout the years, because it is a very, very wide difference if you look at what she looks like, you know, with different artists and different colorists.
That is so fascinating. Ro, were you going to add something?
Yeah, just to add to that, we try and include all creators. It's really difficult with anthologies because, yeah, there can be sometimes up to 100 contributors, but it's a challenge because we found sometimes that information also isn't available online anywhere else. So volunteers have to open the book and, like, you know, record everything that way. And another challenge with that is when including zines in your collection, you have to be sensitive to when people use pseudonyms, because they might not want their real name attached to a work, even though they have a handle and you can easily find their name on their website. So there are challenges with that. But I think it's really important because oftentimes creators like inkers and pencilers are invisible in records, and even writers. And I think that reflects an earlier time when comics weren't creator owned, and creators had less rights to their works built into their contracts, like in the 1950s. And some, I guess, when comics are cataloged in big collections under publishers rather than creators, that also reflects that earlier time period. But I think it's really important to credit all creators in a comic.
Excellent. So the next question was originally public library specific, but knowing that Hallie and Allison, you have academic library experience as well, let's just do libraries in general. But for public libraries, does it make sense to assign Dewey numbers to comics? In academic libraries, does it make sense to assign Library of Congress numbers? What do you think? Hallie, do you want to go first?
I was just going to say, I want Allison to take this one.
I can speak to academic. So we generally go by character. So Batman has his call number, Raven has a call number, Captain Marvel has a call number, and Shazam, Captain Marvel has a different call number. So that's how we usually do things. And then the cutters are what is for the actual creator. So usually we cutter by author. Not always. If it's like a book of, you know, drawings by Wally Wood, then we will cutter by Wally Wood. But generally speaking, that is how we do things, is we go by the character. So all the Batman titles are together. And then if you want a specific creator, that'll be under the cutter.
Do you do anything different for comics that would be considered nonfiction or autobiography?
Nonfiction comics are cataloged under whatever their main subject is. So, you know, they're cataloged. We have a separate area for all of our comics, so it makes it a little bit different. I know that's a question, I think, later on, where do you shelve? But yeah, so, you know, March is cataloged, I think, under the E's somewhere. So yeah, nonfiction comics are not given the PN 67XX numbers. But most of what I catalog, and most of what's more challenging to catalog, at least for me, is some of the superheroes and stuff, because you just end up with so many of the same numbers. I did 90 Peanuts or so volumes at one point, and like a bunch of Doonesbury, and it was very challenging to not overlap numbers because we do shelf listing. So but yeah, so that's how we do nonfiction with whatever the main subject is. So.
Ro, do you have any advice to offer on this one? Oh, you're muted.
Still getting used to Zoom. I don't have a lot of experience cataloging in public or academic libraries in Library of Congress or Dewey, so I don't know if I should speak to that, but I do know that there are benefits to and shortcomings to both. Like in Library of Congress, often comics are distinguished by region, which can make certain narratives segregated and sort of it's like a reflection of like nationalism, and the regional breakdown also reflects that Eurocentric system of, for example, there's the US, Canada, Great Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and then one other section, which happens a lot in those systems that were created decades ago. And then in Dewey, my understanding is that there is more of an emphasis on author within the subgroups in Arts 741.5s, where they can be subgrouped by individual author or writer. In comic books, graphic novellas, and foot novellas, and then 741.59, and then cartoons, caricatures, and comic strips, 741.569. I do have a little notepad open. I haven't memorized this. And those are good distinctions, but also those systems can create hierarchies of what should go in you know, cartoons, caricatures, and comic strip versus graphic novels. And again, as a cataloger, it's difficult because you have to make the best decision that you can make given those limitations. So I don't know if I should have gone on this rant, but there are, I guess, benefits and shortcomings to both. I'll stop there.
And I just wanted to thank you, Ro, because it is very, we don't have a lot of manga. So I don't really have to worry about the PN 6790, J3 or J34, which is for Japan. But if we did have a lot of manga, I would be having a major struggle probably trying to catalog all of it, because I mean, the way that the numbers are divided, it is very, very Eurocentric. It is very hard for libraries who have very diverse and unique collections to try to fit everything in. I mean, when I did, just even doing the Doonesbury titles that I did, it was incredibly challenging because I ended up with like cutter numbers that were, I don't know, 8 digits long, because it was just, everything had the same sort of, you know, it's all the same creator. And then a lot of it was like the same sort of title and everything too. So it was just, it's just very, very challenging lots of times for comics.
Mm-hmm.
I am at a public library and in charge of purchasing our adult graphic novels. And I can tell you the most frustrating things for me is, so our graphic novels are shelved on their own. They're not interfiled with the rest of the nonfiction. But I do have a section of them that I assign Dewey numbers to if they are nonfiction comics. But when they come from the vendor, the Dewey number assigned to them obviously is 741.5. And so then I manually have to go through and figure out what the actual Dewey number for the subject is rather than the Dewey number for the format, which goes right back to one of the very first things said, is that graphic novels and comics are a format, not, you know, that it just is so irritating to me that 741.5 is the number across the whole spectrum of subject matters, instead of having some option when you order them to be like, no, actually, you know, this one is 821 or whatever. I don't even know what 821 is. I'm not a cataloger.
I think one of the
frustrating for me.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Hallie.
I was just gonna say, I think that really goes to, and I know this is a later question and I'm kind of jumping the gun, but like, I think that really goes to, do you interfile your comics? Or do you put them all, because ostensibly, if you don't have a separate comic section and you're assigning Dewey numbers to a nonfiction comic, it's going to end up in the nonfiction section. And is it ever going to be found there? And there are benefits and drawbacks to that, ostensibly. But my opinion, based on what we were based on the research that we did, is that it is better to have them in their own section and then subdivide within that section. And in that case, it might make sense to give it a Dewey number with a subject so that it can be found through that subject. But I can see the instinct of like, well, we'll put all the comics together, and the only way to do that is to have them all be under this Dewey number that says comics. I understand that instinct, even though it doesn't. I think it's a little old.
I agree. It seems like a carryover from a previous time, before comics and graphic novels were more frequently being shelved in their own area. So next question is, are there any comic specific classification systems for libraries?
I guess technically, I guess ours is a unique classification for comics, but again, it's on a very small scale. Our collection has 1,460 comics around, and many more to be cataloged. And I guess I could speak to our system a bit more, if you like.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So we do have a subject breakdown within the comic section, and I guess I wanted to add to the question before that I also agree that it would be great in libraries if I think it's really important that comics are kept in the same section, I guess, just to not let comics readers down and to be able to show the diverse scope of them within the comic section would be so amazing. And that there are benefits to taking certain titles out and cataloging them to be in the nonfiction area, but that sort of takes them out of the comics section and also creates this potential hierarchy of what comics are good enough or deserve to be outside of the comics section. And I think that's a problem. But with duplicate comics, I think that why not? That's such a great idea. But anyway, to get back to our library. So the subject breakdown we use is everyday fiction, which are narratives that are everyday in the time of. Then we have autobiography, and then we have biography, and then we have historical fiction and anthology and horror and speculative fiction, which is science fiction, fantasy, and superhero comics as well. And our nonfiction section with comics is pretty small, so we don't have subcategories within that section yet. And again, this is sort of, these subjects are a reflection of the narratives in our collection and how basically doing some research of other collections and a lot of conversation, a lot of meetings and speaking with community members as to factored into deciding on those subject areas. And they do reflect our biases probably, and they're not perfect, and we are planning on potentially altering them over time. So those are our subjects, and then we do also use a stickering system for representation within comics. Right now, they highlight BIPOC creators, so Black, Indigenous, people of color creators, LGBTQ plus comics. We have a rainbow sticker, and then we have, the BIPOC sticker is orange, and then we have a blue sticker that is mental health and disability, and a green sticker for comics that deal with mental illness in the narrative. And there are a lot of benefits to that, and there are drawbacks to that as well, but we hope that they work to destigmatize certain experiences, like within mental illness and disability. And we do hope that they enable people to find those narratives more easily. And we use them because that way they don't segregate those narratives from the general collection, but they are still visible kind of everywhere you look on the shelf. So, and as I mentioned, we use open source software. We alter like Mark Fields to meet our library requirements. We use OpenBiblio, and we've added features to OpenBiblio as well. Again, I don't think the system is reproducible in larger systems, but it is, I guess, technically a classification system that we use. Yeah.
Awesome, thanks for expanding on that. We have about 2 more minutes, and Ro just touched quite a bit on the last 2 questions. So Hallie and Allison, if you have anything to add, what's the best way to shelve comics and graphic novels, whether it's separately by age or interfiled? And then what about using spine labels to distinguish comics from the rest of the collection, or to distinguish certain subject matters in the comics from the rest of the collection?
So I think, like I said before, I think it's really important to have comics in their own section. Within that, comics are so full of exceptions that it is hard to say, this is the one best way. You really have to just work with what works for the specific collection that you have. We found that, so in our user survey, users primarily were searching by title. After that, it was character and author. So if you can have some breakdown of title, character, author as the means of sorting for how you put things on the shelf, and it's going to depend. I mean, I think what Allison was describing at San Diego, it makes a lot of sense where you want to have characters together, you want to have creators. If they're not a superhero comic, you want to have creators or together as much as you can. But yeah, title, character, author, but put them on their own. As far as stickers, if you do have to interfile, I do think it's important to have a comic sticker if you have comics interfiled with other non-comic books. I will admit I can see both arguments as far as distinguishing particular kinds of topics or creators. That there are benefits, but there are also, like, you know, you might have a teenager who doesn't want to check out a comic with a rainbow sticker on the spine because that's not safe for them at home. I can see that argument as well.
And I would just add, we just have general like graphic novel stickers for our circulating comics. And it's very helpful to not just for patrons, I mean, they're shelved in a separate area, but when anything has to be reshelved, it's just a visual reminder, hey, this is a comic, this goes in this separate area. And so it depends, I think, on how big your collection is, but sometimes having that reminder, especially if you have a very large collection, and sometimes it's hard to tell if something is a comic, like it doesn't necessarily look like it. You might not think, oh, you know, this goes up here and stuff, but we have a separate area specifically for our comics. So it helps a lot, I think, with the nonfiction comics to get them shelved back in the comics section, that there is a sticker on the spine.
Awesome. Okay, we have a little bit of time to get to the audience questions. We have about 11 questions that have been posed, so we'll do our best to get through them. And if not, I know we're all on Twitter. I will just ask the panelists, are you comfortable with people reaching out to you if they have specific questions after this?
Go for it.
Yeah, perfect. All right, first question from the audience. And I think we talked a little bit about this, but I'll ask the question in case there's anything extra. Kelly would love to hear about challenges with manga as well, if anyone can speak to that.
I will say manga is a whole thing. Manga is hard. When we were doing our research, the biggest answer that we got for when we tried to bring up the subject of manga is the fact that some of the series are just so freaking long that it's difficult to have in your collection just in terms of space. So that doesn't even touch on the cataloging side of things, but that's sort of a bigger issue. Yeah, manga is intimidating. So maybe somebody else should speak about it.
I will say, Kathleen asked if the manga genres help with cataloging at all.
I guess I can just jump in to add, for our library, we actually don't have to, we're lucky we don't have to worry about the challenges in other systems because we just shelve manga in whatever subject area in our library it best fits within, so they're not in their own separate section. We also have very limited amount of, so we don't have shelves and shelves of series of manga in our collection yet. So I don't think we have to deal with as many challenges as you do.
And I would just add, we also don't have a ton of manga. I will say I am still very annoyed that Library of Congress will not make it a genre form term. It has been proposed multiple times and they refuse to do it. So we do it as like a local term, just because I do work our reference desk and I occasionally get asked questions, and it is very hard if I just have to try to do a keyword search because you just get like everything. So in terms of like having specific genres like shoujo and shonen, it's not something that we've really explored yet. Like I said, we don't really have, at least that I've cataloged, we don't really have very many titles. I haven't looked to see how many we have total. But right now we're more focusing, it seems like, on superheroes. So I do think that that might be an avenue to explore. And I do think if you have a lot of manga, it would be helpful maybe to do those as like local genre terms or local genre headings, just because I think that that is how users might search. But it's not something that my library has considered yet. I will say also that it would be a challenge if we had a lot of manga in terms of trying to fit in call numbers, because there's not much room in Library of Congress classification. And I don't know if any libraries have repurposed other numbers, or gone further down, because right now everything else is in PN 6790. And then you just do like, A something for Argentina, J something for Japan. And so it just makes it very, very tight and very challenging if you have a very large collection.
Thank you. The next question, Kelly has a clarification in the chat. One of the biggest issues is bad translations and corrupted characters in the MARC record.
This goes back to my shameless plug earlier, but there is a whole chapter on manga in this book. I am not an expert on it, but that, who is it? It's Desjardins and somebody else wrote this chapter. Michael P. Williams and Molly Desjardins. I'm not pronouncing that right, I'm sure. Yeah, right there. There's a whole chapter, so that would probably be a better source than I am.
Awesome. Rolling right along, the next question is from Matthew, who wants to know, Allison, this is for you. Are the guidelines coming out from the Metadata Committee going to include National Library of Medicine classification guidance?
So we're actually focusing right now on descriptive instead of subject. That's what our discussion is focused on. So I can bring it up and we can look into that. I don't know that any of us do a lot of graphic medicine, but I can definitely bring it up because we were talking about other vocabularies to use. So right now we've just mentioned, I think, the Homosaurus and Getty, but that is definitely something that I can bring up and include in our discussions.
Another question for you, Allison, from Kathleen. How does the superhero system work when it's a group comic such as Justice League or X-Men?
So so there's two things. We catalog our comics. If it's Justice League has its own call number. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but they do have their own call number. And Justice Society has their own call number. And there's group character headings. So if it's a Justice League, it's a subject heading because it's more than one person, but you can do Justice League fictitious characters or Justice Society of America fictitious characters. So those are all, grouped together. So X-Men has its own call number. So if it's an X-Men title, it's cataloged under, I believe, PN 6728 X2. I might be wrong about that. I think that was the cutter we chose, or the call number we chose. But if it's a Wolverine title, it would have a different call number because it's not an X-Men title, it's a Wolverine title. That's kind of how we did things, if that answers your question.
All right. Next question. We still have a few minutes. Next question is, how do you address roles/creator titles changing from comic to comic? For instance, maybe inker, then becoming inks by. Are there ways of addressing those discrepancies?
I can answer if nobody else wants to. So when we use like relator terms, like the actual term is inker. So if you have a name of somebody, like Joe Kirby or something, the name will always just say, for his relator term, will always just be inker, at least how we do it in our library. But when you're recording like your statement of responsibility, you just kind of record whatever is on the title. This might be too cataloging specific, but that's kind of how we do it. So, you know, if ink by or inks by or inker or whatever they happen to be, you know, that's what I record specifically for that issue. But in terms of, you know, when I enter in the person as an added access point and then add the relator term, it's always just inker or penciler. And I decided that for penciler, I try to do 2 L's, but I don't think I'm exactly consistent.
Thank you. We have time for one more question before we kick it back over to Franco. Mackenzie asks, this is in harkening back to the Witch Robin dilemma. Is it worthwhile to create local subject headings in your catalogs, or does that pose its own challenges as we're striving for more universal and cooperative cataloging in the age of the internet and WorldCat?
Allison, can you answer that in 2 minutes?
I can try. So there was a ruling, I don't remember when, by Library of Congress, it's known as the Human Torch ruling. And they pretty much said that you can treat comic book characters like Robin kind of as like a pseudonym. And then you can create separate name authorities. I have 4 minutes. Separate name headings for like all the different individual Robins. So Dick Grayson could have his own heading. Stephanie Brown can have her own heading, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are strengths and weaknesses to that. You have to know when you're cataloging, okay, I put in Robin and I have to put in Dick Grayson too. But what if Dick Grayson isn't the Robin? What if he's Nightwing in this? Then you have to put in Nightwing, and then you have to put in whatever Robin it happens to be, Tim Drake or whoever. So there are some ways you can sort of manage it. Before I joined a NACO funnel, I used to edit summary statements. So if I had a Spider-Man title, I would say, when Spider-Man, in parentheses, Peter Parker or Miles Morales, and do that instead. That's not as easy to search depending upon what your library system is like, because usually for actual authorities and subjects and stuff, it's easier to like say is exact, and then you can really find just Miles Morales, who does have a name because I created it. But, you know, it just depends on what works best for your system. I can see both ways. It is very, very challenging. I haven't cataloged these yet. I just saw them. But like there are some new, I know Tom King has a new Batman comic where it has all 4 Robins together. Not all as Robin, but you know, so like, how do you do that and stuff? So it makes it very hard because there's no way to say, unless you do it in like the summary statement or something, that Dick Grayson is the Robin you're talking about if there's another Robin there. So if you have to assign 2 like character headings for Dick Grayson and Tim Drake.
Thank you. And then Ro, I have a question for you if you can answer in about 2 minutes. Could you just remind us the name of the open source program that you're using in the cataloging system that the Open Library has developed? Somebody's asking about, just to hear more about it and the process it's taken to develop.
Yeah, so it's called Open Biblio, and we have updated the code that we do plan to re-release eventually, so that maybe if there's like a rural community in like Ontario somewhere, they want to put together a comics library, they can sort of take that and go for it. Yeah, so it's so we've added simple features like cover photos and discoverability features like keyword publisher and genre breakdowns on our OPAC homepage. But there are lots of, it's not perfect, it's a work in progress, and we do not catalog traditionally at all, and we sort of make unique uses of different mark fields. But yeah, to answer the question, Open Biblio.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much to our panelists for being here. I'm going to kick it back over to Franco to close us out. If we didn't get to your question, I'm so sorry. Please do reach out to the panelists to ask the rest of your questions.
All right, thanks, Brittany, and thank you to all our panelists. I think this is a fascinating discussion, and even for myself as a non-cataloger librarian, the work that you guys do and everything sets the pace for everything else. So this is incredibly important work. For those of you in attendance, thank you for joining us today. We do have 3 more Banned Books Week webinars for the remainder of the week, all at noon Central Time. If you haven't registered for tomorrow's, it is Black People in Comics. We'll be having a conversation with creators on how Black people have been historically portrayed in comics, from the obstacles of integrating Black characters into mainstream and superhero comics to present-day works, issues Black creators face working in the comics industry, and the importance of non-white characters existing on the comics page. So you can find registration information and everything by following us online at @libcomics on Twitter, at least. That's the GNCRT account. And of course, following us with hashtag #BannedBooksWeek 2020. So thank you everyone again. That worked at 2 o'clock or 2 o'clock Eastern time for me. So we'll wrap it up, and thanks for joining us again. Bye everyone.